Sorry, I just wanted to use my bell. Good morning, everybody. Evening, and welcome to the Ordinary Council meeting of the 25th of March 2025. I'd like to start with the recording and live streaming of council meetings and ask Mr. Jeremy to talk to it.
All council meetings are filmed with both video and audio being recorded. Video is focused on a specific area, however, audio from the entire room is captured. In common with all narrative during council meetings, verbal responses to congratulations, obituaries and question time will not be recorded in the written minutes. By submitting a question, you consent to your question being read aloud at the meeting. The reasoning behind recording council meetings is to hold us more accountable and to improve transparency of council's decision-making to our community. The full meeting is being streamed live on council's YouTube channel, which is Alpine Shire Council, and will also be available on the YouTube channel shortly after this meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Jeremy. Item 2, acknowledgement of traditional custodians and recognition of all people. Could we all stand? Alpine Shire acknowledges the Tongarong peoples as the traditional owners of the land on which we are meeting today. Council also acknowledges all of the traditional owners of the wider lands of the area known as the Alpine Shire. We also acknowledge those people who have contributed to the rich fabric of our community and strive to make wise decisions that will improve the quality of life for all. Thank you. Item 3 is confirmation of minutes for the Ordinary Council meeting 25th of February 2025. Do I have a mover or a seconder? Moved Councillor Anderson, seconded Councillor Tansen. Any comments? No. No. Take that to the vote. All those in favour? Carried. Item 4 is apologies, and the apology we have tonight is from Councillor Smith, who has some ongoing health issues that he is dealing with at the moment, and we wish him all the best. Item 5 is obituaries and congratulations, and I'm going to start on my right with Councillor Graham.
Thank you, Mayor Nicholas. I'd like to congratulate the Myrtleford Swim Club, who have, for the umpteenth year in a row, won their district trophy.
Nice. Councillor Byrne.
Nothing from me.
Councillor Anderson.
Nothing from me. Nothing from me.
Councillor Tansen.
Nothing from me.
Right then, I've got the floor. I'd like to congratulate, first of all, the people who organised the Dettering races. You got some statistics just yesterday, I think, or this morning. 2,500 attendees, some of whom travelled quite some distance and some of whom stayed overnight, at least one night. And $40,000 injected into the Kiewa Valley, plus other benefits such as word of mouth, etc., for that wonderful valley that we, as part of the Alpine Shire. I think it's really important to recognise the grassroots nature of that event and how it's really community building and how strong it can help make the community. I'd also like to recognise, deep breath here, a particular young woman from Bright who finished her VCE last year and scored a very high A in her drama subject, and therefore was accepted into Top Act, which is where the highest achievers from across the state get to do a performance for a number of people. I was lucky enough to go to one of them and saw Krista Brandon perform a piece that she wrote herself. She designed the sets and all the props that she used. She had the school help her make one of the things that she used, and not just Krista, but who was just astounding. She was absolutely fantastic. We saw 9 acts in total, and they covered things like women's rights, which is what Krista acted about, and climate action, amongst other things, but also some things a bit more humorous, and it was a really good afternoon. So if anybody's in Melbourne, next time Top Act is on, go for it. It's also being put forward in Traralgon, and Krista's been invited to go to that one as well. So congratulations, Krista, for being such a high achiever. And that's me. Councillors have any conflict of interest on any items on the agenda tonight? Good. Now we get to number 7, public questions. So I'm going to start public questions tonight by reading out the Council's governance rules around question time. They are published in the agenda. Questions submitted to Council may be submitted as questions on notice by 5 p.m. on the day prior to the Council meeting, or they may be raised during meetings. At the chairperson's discretion, people may ask questions from the public gallery. No person may submit or ask more than 2 questions at any one meeting. Questions should be limited to items of public interest and are not intended to replace Council's ordinary customer request process. A question may be disallowed by the chairperson, which is the Mayor, if the chairperson determines that it is not related to an item on the agenda, relates to a matter outside the duties, functions and powers of Council, is defamatory, indecent, abusive, offensive, irrelevant, trivial or objectionable in language or substance, deals with a subject matter already answered, is aimed at embarrassing a councillor or a member of Council staff, relates to confidential information as defined in Section 3 of the Local Government Act, relates to the personal hardship of any resident or ratepayer, or relates to any other matter which the Council considers would prejudice the Council or any person. And after I've read that out, I am now going to accept a question on notice submitted by Mr Bruce Nordeck. The question is, when will Alpine Shire Council renovate the median strip in Anderson Street, Bright, to mirror the interconnecting design in Island Street, Bright? It is currently an eyesore for locals and tourists alike and a shame for such a beautiful CBD. And I will ask Mr Rees to respond.
Thank you, Mayor. Bruce, thanks for your question. You're right, the medium strip in Anderson Street has been a challenging space to upgrade and has been looked at in the past. It currently has pear trees planted whose root system outcompetes everything else. And with this challenge, it's been difficult to find a sensible solution for aligning the streetscape in Anderson Street with the rest of Island Street. Interestingly, just prior to receiving your question, the Outdoors team have initiated another project to look at options to see what could be done and really look at the overarching Anderson Street streetscape, which has got a bigger picture that needs to be considered. At this stage, the team's thinking is looking towards removing the pear trees, refreshing the soil and moving to a turf solution for that with appropriate irrigation. But there's more work that needs to be done, and once we've finalised our plans, we'll be progressing those.
Thank you, Mr Rees. Now a call from questions from the floor, reminding people of the governance rules I just read out. Are there any questions from the floor? Mr Dyer.
It's better, it's green. My name's Ray Dyer and reside at Nug Nug, Buffalo River. I just received a letter from Councillor Graham, and Sarah, it's got your signature on it as Mayor, and I spoke about my bike, I think it was 2 months ago, 8 weeks, and I was expecting a letter from you because I think your words were that you'll receive a letter. I gather this is the letter now. And the letter says, Dear Ray, thank you for taking the time to meet with me and the CEO, Will Genvy, over recent weeks. Well,
Mr Dyer, could you read out the date of that letter?
it's got the 4th of November 2002 for the reference, but it does not have a date on when it was signed and sent. Now, this is what I'm talking about of accountability. I haven't met with Will for quite a long time. It's been nearly, 12 months ago. I think it was January or February. I was talking about you standing down, Will, about the toilets. Well, that still stands because
Ray,
you haven't even contacted me or
Dyer,
done anything. Yes.
Mr Dyer, That has just contravened one of the governance rules that I read out earlier about aimed at embarrassing a councillor or a member of council staff. So I think, thank you to...
Well, I think with the letter being incorrect, for starters,
I think I have asked you to refrain, Mr Dyer. Do you have a question that's related to anything on the agenda tonight?
well, I'll talk about the
Do you have a
toilets then.
question that is related to...
I have a question about the toilets. How come it took nearly a month and a half to clean the graffiti off Jubilee toilets in Myrtleford?
So I'm just going to ask you another question. Does this deal with a subject matter that has already been answered?
No,
Because the graffiti has been cleaned off.
it hasn't been answered, and I've been waiting 8 weeks for these 5 questions that I spoke with Gareth on the 4th of November last year. And as I said, when we get these, because I haven't gone right through them yet and understood them right through, but there's quite a few more questions and a few on the council elections too, which I'm not happy with the goings on in the Shire during the election.
So if you're not happy with what's going on in the election, you get in touch with the Local Government Inspectorate or Victorian Electoral Commission. It's not something that we deal with here.
I will
So
do
thank
that
you
then.
very much, Mr
Yes,
Dyer.
I will do that.
And I
Now,
think the rest of your concerns are not something that we can deal with in a council meeting. They are more aligned to going through our customer policy, customer information system, and I request that you do that in future. Thank you.
I've been dealing, yeah.
Thank you, Mr Dyer. That is enough.
I can't even have 2 questions.
Because your questions are not related to anything on the agenda, and they are related to things outside the duties, function and powers of council, and we have some other people waiting to ask questions.
That's fine, no
Thank
problem.
you.
Accountability.
If I may,
Yes, thank you.
Ray, we spoke in the street a few weeks ago about the... well, maybe then. But we spoke on the graffiti, and I explained to you that I'd spoken to the contractor and they were having trouble with whatever the people had used for graffiti, their chemicals were not removing the graffiti. So they were investigating how else they could move forward on the problem.
I also spoke about the paperwork I got for the contractor for the toilets, because I'm thinking, if I'm going about the toilets, I might as well know exactly what I'm talking about, what the contract involves. When I get paperwork, half a dozen sheets of paper saying where all the bins are, when they're emptied and everything else, there's nothing on the toilets, and also the trees with the photographs and the reasons why the trees are cut down. There's more trees being cut down in Myrtleford. There was another 2 in Lewis Avenue just recently, another one in Clyde Street.
Thank you, Mr Dyer.
But still,
Thank you, Mr Councillor Graham. info@alpineshire.vic.gov.au info@alpineshire.vic.gov.au and if you don't have that, then you can... But it's not at a council meeting, it's not where we can resolve your problems. Are there any further questions from the floor? No. Thank you. That's unusual, Mrs Kedwell-Dallies. Good night, Mr Dyer. Thank you. And now we are going on to presentation of reports by officers, and we are starting with Mr Will Jeremy, 8.1.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So this report relates to contracts which were approved under the delegation of the CEO. I've noted there 4 contracts which have been approved over the recent period since the last council meeting. So these are the footpath renewal construction in Brighton Myrtleford, bridge renewal for Fibiales Bridge, the Robin Station landscaping and civil works, and the Hicks Lane and Barwedgee Creek Rail Trail Bridge. Councillors will note that we've added additional information in at the request of councillors, so we're now recording what is the budgeted amount, or what was the amount that was anticipated when we went out to the market, and what was the amount that has been awarded under contract to provide clarity as to how we're performing against what our initial estimates of these contracts are. So hopefully that's information which is useful to council in understanding some of the challenges of actually budgeting and achieving alignment with budget. There's some ups, there's some downs. But overall, we try and aim to achieve across our whole budget a balanced budget. So recommendation that the capital project contracts approved under the delegation by the CEO be noted.
Thank you, Mr Jeremy. Do I have a mover or a seconder? Councillor Graham has moved. Seconder? Councillor Anderson, Councillor Graham? Noting? Nothing? Does anybody have any comments or questions? Thank you, Councillor Ronco.
Yes, I have just two questions. For the bridge renewal at Phoebials Bridge, will every emergency vehicle be able to use this bridge, and what will be the gross vehicle mass over this bridge?
Thank you, Mr. Rees.
Thank you, Councillor Ronco. So the upgrade to the bridge will enable it to be traversed by heavy vehicles up to 14.5 tonnes at a speed of 10 kilometres per hour to enable emergency vehicles and heavy freight to pass. But this is under conditional assessment for those conditions to be met. So typically it's a 10-tonne bridge for everyday use, but for emergency purposes up to 14.5.
Thank you. And the second question is for the European Station landscaping and civil work. Is this project part of the Murray to Mountain Rail Trail upgrade with secure government funding by Tourism North East?
Councillor Rees?
Thank you, Councillor Ronco. Yes, this project is part of the Murray to Mountains upgrade project and is fully funded through Tourism North East.
Thank you.
Any further questions or comments? No? Take this one to the vote. All those in favour? Noting contracts? Carried. Thank you. The next item is 8.2, Director of Assets, Mr. Rees, presenting reports 8.2.1, Sealing of Unsealed Roads Policy. Thank you, Mr. Rees.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm just catching up with my admin here.
Yeah.
So this report, Sealing of Unsealed Roads Policy, relates to the draft Sealing of Unsealed Roads Policy, number 38, version 3.1, which has been developed for consideration and approval by Council for release to the community for public consideration and feedback. Just by way of a bit of background, the proposed policy aims to provide a clear framework for the prioritisation, sealing and management of unsealed roads to be sealed within the municipality. The policy is necessary to ensure a consistent, transparent and equitable approach to the prioritisation of these sealing projects is applied. And this policy applies to all sealing requests relating to Council's roads. It enables Council to assess and establish if a road meets the minimum requirements to be considered for sealing, and from the list of Council's road upgrade program prioritisation list. And the assessment of the road sealing requests is based predominantly on the principle of the standard to which the road is constructed and maintained, and is directly related to the amount of and type of traffic that the road actually carries. The methodology for scoring these requests has not changed, but just to reconfirm what that involves, it's a three-step process. The first is a traffic count, and the second is then looking at whether that comparative score meets the threshold of 100, which is the threshold required to meet the policy for then consideration of resealing, or of sealing. And it also considers matters such as strategic transport routes, the type and weight of vehicles that traverse the road. And then we validate the prioritisation and the decision is made. However, projects listed on the road upgrade program will always be subject to the availability of funding and Council's discretion through the annual capital works program and the budgeting process. One of the risks to note really does link to this reality of the cost of an upgrade, which may be excessively expensive for Council to be able to afford to do as a priority. And to give you a little bit of a sense of the magnitude of what it costs to upgrade and seal an unsealed road, we're talking in the order of $150,000 to $160,000 per kilometre. The development of the policy has been done through consultation with adjacent councils to make sure that we're understanding what the neighbours are doing and how they approach this, as well as extensive internal consideration. So this evening, the recommendation is for Council to consider endorsing this draft policy for public exhibition. And once that period is closed, the Council officers would consider the feedback and then bring this back to Council for consideration and adoption in due course.
Thank you, Mr Rees. Councillors? Mover, seconder? Yep. Moved Councillor Byrne, seconded Councillor Ronco. Councillor Byrne.
Mr Rees, does the traffic count take into account seasonal fluctuations in traffic volumes?
Thank you, Councillor Byrne. It depends on the time at which the request is made. We try to get out and do the traffic counts as soon as possible, mainly triggered when we get a request that says traffic behaviours have changed significantly, and then we like to get a baseline and then a kind of a peak to give us some sense of how things have changed. So I suppose the answer is yes, as far as we can.
Thank you.
Councillor Ronco?
And how many unsealed road requests are recorded on the current list?
Thank you, Councillor Ronco. We have 44 unsealed roads on the list that is being tracked.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Councillor Graham?
Thank you, Mr Rees. You've said about public consultation. Can you just give us an indication of the time frame of when that will go up and how long it will be?
Thank you, Councillor Graham. So pending Council's decision this evening, obviously we'll then proceed with, if this recommendation is approved, we will then be going through at least a 4-week or 28-day period for public feedback and consideration. If we see that there is significant interest and we need to provide additional time, we're always able to do that. But we have to provide at least 28 days of time for the community to provide their feedback.
Any further questions or comments? No, take on to the vote. All those in favour? Carried. The next item is 8.2.2, Dinner Plain snowmaking, installation of pump, reservoir and reticulation. Mr Rees.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This report relates to the award of a contract for the installation of a large reservoir, the size of 200,000 litres, a pump and associated reticulation infrastructure to support the snowmaking project at Dinner Plain. This project up at Dinner Plain is fully funded through the Bushfire Tourism and Business Fund in 2020. And as Council might recall, we recently installed a new water bore to provide water supply specifically for the snowmaking that will reduce the dependency of snowmaking on the town's water supply. The scope of this contract will reduce the dependency on the town's water supply and also enable the construction of a large reservoir that would provide for those needs. It will also support the provision of a reliable snow covering at the ski and toboggan slopes from mid-June to late September, which is a key criteria of this particular project, resulting in economic and social benefits for Dinner Plain community and the businesses year-round. Just by way of the process that we followed Council's normal procurement policy. We had 10 prospective tenderers download the documents and we received 2 submissions. And as per the recommendation, the submission received from ABC Group best met the selection criteria and requirements.
Thank you, Mr Rees. Councillors? Moved Councillor Ronco, seconded Councillor Byrne. Councillor Ronco?
No, that's fine. All good.
Councillor Byrne? Bottom one, sorry.
Mr Rees, can the water storage be used in terms of bushfire or other emergencies as necessary?
Thank you, Councillor Byrne. Yes, it would be possible to be used. And also just to confirm that the tank is a concrete tank for exactly those reasons.
Thank you.
Any further questions, comments? Councillor Graham.
Thank you, Mr Rees. Just to check, purely 100% government money and none's coming out of the Dinner Plain Reserve?
Thank you, Councillor Graham. Yes, this is fully funded, as I said prior, through the Bushfire Tourism and Business Fund.
Anything further from councillors? No? Take that one to the vote. All those in favour? Yay. Unanimous. Last one from Mr Rees, 8.2.3, purchase of discontinued road at Mount Beauty Airport.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So this report relates to the purchase of a discontinued road at the Mount Beauty Airport, which is linked to the Mount Beauty runway extension project. And for councillors' awareness, this afternoon I received a call from a land expert recommending that there may be an alternative pathway to explore prior to committing to the procurement of this land. And so I would like to recommend councillors consider laying this report on the table to enable that work to be done and be able to report back to you with the findings.
Councillors. Councillor Byrne, moving a motion to lay it on the table? Yep. Over seconder. Councillor Anderson. All those in favour? Here we go. See this one again next month. And we're moving on to our Director of Corporate and Community, Ms Cook. 8.3.1, Audit and Risk Committee meeting minutes number 4 from the 21st of February 2025.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is the Audit and Risk Committee meeting minutes from the 21st of February 2025. The purpose of the report is to present the unconfirmed minutes of the Audit and Risk Committee. The committee met on the 21st of February and considered several items, including regular quarterly reports and standing items that form a part of their agenda. The key items that were considered and form part of the minutes which are attached are summarised in the report and includes Council's Cultural Transformation Program. The committee was given an overview of Council's Cultural Transformation Program, which aims to create a cohesive, accountable and efficient organisational culture to align leadership and staff expectations, increase operational efficiency and create a positive, thriving workplace for our employees. And to meet internal and community needs. We also provided an update on the information and communication technology cybersecurity. This is a significantly changing space throughout the world, and our obligations in that space are changing, and we're implementing another number of programs to meet our cybersecurity obligations. We provided a capital works update, an update on the Asset Management Steering Committee Group report, and we undertook an update on the Audit and Risk Committee Charter review, which forms the subject of a separate report to Council tonight. We also discussed 2 privacy breaches that occurred between November 2024 and 2025, noting that those have been successfully closed out with no action requirements. And the recommendation is that Council receives and notes the minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillors. Receiving and noting the minutes of the last Audit Committee meeting. Councillor Anderson moved. Seconder. Councillor Byrne. Thank you. Councillor Anderson.
No.
Councillor Byrne.
None for me, thank you.
Any comment? Anybody? I just thought I'd say, I think we said at the last meeting too, but all councillors are invited to the Audit Committee meeting, and it's been really good to see how many of the new councillors are coming along and learning just what makes the organisation tick. I reckon it's almost the heartbeat, the Audit and Risk Committee, because they look at so much of the organisation and you can really see how things fit together and how, I guess, secure we are in terms of the way we manage our finances and manage the risk. So well done for everyone for coming, and everyone, I hope, will get through come to a meeting at least over the next couple of years to see. And it's worth having a look at the minutes for the same reason. So it's great they're in the meeting here today. Let's take it to the vote. All those in favour? Carried. Thanks. And Mrs Cook, 8.3.2, Budget Report Quarter 2 Review.
The purpose of the Budget Report Quarter 2 Review is to provide Council with the overview of the year-to-date results for the period ending the 31st of December 2024, and to provide an update in the forecast financial position against the full-year budget. So it's worth noting that Council is forecasting a full-year surplus of $10.8 million, being $2.2 million higher than that which was budgeted in the year's budget. So the year's budget forecast a surplus of $8.6 million, and we are now forecasting $10.8 million. However, it is also worth noting that this is less than we were forecasting at the end of quarter one, and that this is an operating surplus that we are budgeting for here, and is largely related to the way that we recognise capital grants or additional capital grant income that we've received in the intervening period since the budget was first put forward, which means that it isn't actual additional cash that Council has, it's additional grant income that we may have received that we will be expending on capital projects.
Thank you, Ms Cook. Councillors. Councillor Ronco has moved the recommendation. Seconder?
Yeah.
Councillor Anderson? Yeah. Thank you. Councillor Ronco.
Yes, again, with the surplus, so how much of the surplus is contributed by external government grant, but I think you already answered, but yeah, heavy.
Yeah, the vast majority. So $8.6 million was what we were budgeting at the beginning of the year as our surplus, and that was more about the recognition of the capital grant. So when we recognise the income from capital grant, a capital grant we might receive versus when we're expending it through our system, and that was what we were forecasting at the beginning of the year. However, we've received some more grant income in the intervening period, which is why it looks higher, which is why it is higher than what we were originally forecasting. However, that again, the additional $2.1 million we're now forecasting is capital grants coming in, which means it'll be expensed out as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Anderson? No? Anybody else have anything to comment on the budget report? No? I haven't got any questions either. We'll take this one to the vote. All those in favour of the recommendation? Carried unanimously. Thank you. 8.3.3. Introduction of the Emergency Services and Volunteer Fund. Ms Cook.
The purpose of this report, thank you, Madam Mayor. The purpose of this report is to inform Council about the implementation of the Emergency Services and Volunteer Fund from the 1st of July 2025. So on the 1st of July 2013, the state government introduced the Fire Services Property Levy. This was introduced to create a funding stream for the CFA and Fire Rescue Victoria. The FSPL, as that one was called, replaced what was previously the insurance industry funded scheme for the two fire services. The state government at that time legislated that the FSPL would be collected from ratepayers by councils across Victoria and then remitted to the State Revenue Office. So on the 13th of December last year, the Victorian State Government announced that the FSPL would be replaced by this new fund called the Emergency Services and Volunteer Fund from the 1st of July this year. So the aim of the ESVF, so we're going from the FSPL to the ESVF, is to broaden the number of emergency service entities that will be funded through this fund on properties to include the Victorian State Emergency Service, the SES, 000 Victoria, the State Control Centre, Forest Fire Management Victoria and Emergency Recovery Victoria, as well as the CFA and the FRV. So the amount that is to be collected by council under the ESVF is set by the state government and will be collected by council but be remitted directly to the State Revenue Office in the same way the FSPL was. It is important to note that the method of calculating the new fund levy is the same method as being used for the FSPL. However, there has been a change made by the state government to the variable component of that charge, which will increase the charge that we need to apply to ratepayers. This charge increase is different depending on the property classification and will range between, just on the variable component, of between 64% and 189% increase, just on that variable component. So this means that when we equate that across the average residential property in the Alpine Shire, whose value is approximately $792,000, the cost increase in total for the charge is about $72. However, this will be different depending on the classification of the properties. So that's for a residential property at about the average cost across the Shire. So we note that the increase in payments required in the move between the previous levy and the new levy that's being introduced may have an impact on some ratepayers' ability to pay. It's an overall increase. Yeah. So we will continue to manage any financial hardship applications in line with our financial hardship policy. There are some financial and resource implications for council as well. So council anticipates that the implementation of this change will create resourcing impacts for us, starting from about next month. We really do need to manage changes to the systems, enable to us to implement this from about next month, so that we're ready for our first rates notices in 2025-26. Because those first rates notices that will come out will need to accurately reflect ratepayers' obligations to pay this charge. We also will need to make changes to our computer system, so the system that we use to manage our rates payments, in order for us to be able to meet this charge as well. So there is some change and implications for council in this. Council's responsibility in ensuring compliance to this is being legislated. And we will be including the change to this levy in our draft budget when it is presented to council. And that draft budget will undergo a period of public consultation. The recommendation is that council notes the information contained in this report regarding the implementation of the fund.
Thank you, Ms Cook. Councillors. Moved by Councillor Byrne, seconded by Councillor Ronco. Councillor Byrne.
I note with interest, Ms Cook, that the Municipal Association of Victoria, supported by 18 different councils, has written to the state government, based solely on the difficulty of implementing this and the short time frame that we have and the reputational damage that could be caused to council. It seems particularly difficult if we don't have the correct information from the State Revenue Office to roll these fees out, given that there's differential rates for landlords, there's exemptions for those involved in the emergency services. I see this as being something very difficult for us to implement in the short time frame we've got.
It is a short time frame now. We're heading towards April. July is not very far away for us to have this implemented, and there is a lack of clear information for us to assist us in implementing this at the moment.
It certainly looks like we don't have much choice, but...
That's my understanding.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ronco.
Yes, and just on this fee, was it collected by Victoria Council instead directly by Victoria State with via a special levy or anything like that? So it's a bit, put the burden on the already busy council instead to take straight away the money if they need the fee.
Thank you, Councillor Ronco. Any other councillors got a question or a comment? Got a question, Ms Cook. Has the state government offered local governments any financial support to implement this extra burden?
So the state government does provide financial support currently on the remittance of the FSPL. In the form of a payment, and we make about $55,000 a year is remitted to council to assist with the administration of those funds. And the state government has, in communication, indicated that they will be supplying resources, but they are yet to tell us what that is. So we aren't sure what the intention is for those resources. We assume that it will be something similar, but we don't know yet.
Okay. Thank you. Any further comments, questions, right of reply? No. Take this one to the vote. We are noting that the Emergency Services and Volunteer Fund is being put forward to us by the state government. All those in favour? Thank you. And the next item is the Audit and Risk Committee Charter Review. Ms Cook.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So this report relates to a review being undertaken of the Alpine Shire Council Audit and Risk Committee Charter. Council's required to have an Audit and Risk Committee under Section 53 of the Local Government Act, and the committee is required to have a charter under Section 54 of the Act. The committee charter has been reviewed and a number of amendments have been recommended to the charter. The details of those recommendeds are contained in the report under the title of Issues, which outlines the section of the charter and the changes made to the charter, which is in your attachments. The changes which are being recommended to the charter are to strengthen the charter or to clarify provisions. The reviewed charter was presented to the Audit and Risk Committee at the 21st of February 2025 meeting for discussion, and the items raised in that discussion have been resolved. The agreed position is presented in the updated Audit and Risk Committee charter for your consideration. The recommendation is that Council notes that there was a review of the Audit and Risk Committee charter, that the current Audit and Risk Committee charter, being version 4.1, is revoked, that the Audit and Risk Committee Charter version 5.0 is adopted, and that this Audit and Risk Committee Charter is signed and sealed at the appropriate stage of the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms Cook. Councillors. Moved by Councillor Byrne, seconded by Councillor Ronco. Councillor Byrne.
I'd like to echo your comments, Councillor Mayor Nicholas. Yes, it is a very, very important function delivered to create transparency and understanding of all the operations of council.
Yep.
So.
Councillor Ronco.
Nothing.
Nothing. Any further comments from other councillors? No? I'd just like to take this one to the vote then. All those in favour of the revised charter? All those. Thank you. Thanks. Item 8.3.5, rating strategy for Dinner Plain.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The purpose of this report is to propose that Council does not declare a special rate in Dinner Plain Village for the 2025-26 financial year and brings Dinner Plain into the commercial industrial differential rating strategy as is applied to the rest of the Shire through the 2025 review of Council's revenue and rating plan. Council has established a rating structure comprising of three key elements. These are our general rates, and a special rate and service charges. General rates are based on property value, which are indicative of a capacity to pay from the general base of the rating structure and include a differential rate depending on how a property is used. The special rate is also based on property value and is charged in addition to a general rate. And at this stage, it is charged for commercial industrial properties located within the Dinner Plain Village to defray the expense of initiatives which are considered a special benefit to the village. Service charges are a user pays component of council which reflects benefits provided by council, so fees and charges. So council makes a distinction when applying general rates by applying rate differentials based on the purpose for which a property is used. So this means that whether a property is being used for a commercial industrial purpose, for a residential purpose or a farming purpose. The use of special rates is defined in section 163 of the Local Government Act from 1989, and these are a flexible rate that can be used to achieve a wide range of community objectives. The fundamental principle of a special rate is that it is used to levy a rate or charge for a group where a special benefit is applied to those that's being levied. And when you declare a special rate, it is special rates required to be declared annually. So council has declared a special rate for the Dinner Plain Village for 2024-25. We are proposing the council does not declare a special rate for 25-26. Historically, council has declared a special rate to defray the expenses specific to ratepayers in Dinner Plain. It has changed over the years. So in 2015-16, there was a declared special rate for Dinner Plain that was payable by all ratepayers in Dinner Plain, and it was at the value of 80.7%. This has been changed and reducing over the years until this year, 24-25. The declared special rate in Dinner Plain only applies to commercial industrial properties in the village and is at 43%, which is equivalent to the commercial industrial differential rating strategy applied to the properties in the rest of the Shire. In not proposing a special rate for Dinner Plain, we are proposing that we would review the commercial industrial rating policy, which is contained within Council's revenue and rating plan. We are required to undertake an update to the revenue and rating plan for 2025, and we would like to put in review the definitions of the commercial industrial differential rating policy to include Dinner Plain, who are currently excluded from that policy, thereby bringing Dinner Plain into the rating structure that applied to the rest of the Shire. Public consultation on that plan would be undertaken to ensure due consideration and feedback is received from all ratepayers on that plan prior to it being brought to council for adoption. So it would come to council for approval to be placed on public exhibition. Public exhibition would be undertaken, feedback would be considered, and once all feedback from the community members is considered, then that would be taken into account in a redraft of the plan if necessary, and then the plan would be brought back to council for consideration and adoption. That would then form the differential rating strategy for the next financial year. So the removal of a special rate in Dinner Plain will remove revenue of approximately $167,000 from the 25-26 budget. The reason for this is that the special rate funding is not considered a part of the Essential Services Commission's rate cap. So if we were to bring Dinner Plain into the differential industrial rating strategy, that $167,000 would not be in addition to the rate cap as is applied to the rest of the Shire. Effectively, this would mean a very small reduction overall in how rates are applied in the rating differential category to the rate cap. So it wouldn't be a reduction overall without the rate cap, but because the rate cap would not include that 3% in addition, it would be a very small reduction. That doesn't mean it would be a reduction for individual properties necessarily, because an individual property's rating structure is defined by their capital improved value. So if your property increases in value disproportionate to somebody else's property, potentially your rates will change in a disproportionate manner to the rate cap. However, overall, the rating structure would be reasonably equal to the rating structure. So the reason we are enacting a change to the rating strategy for Dinner Plain now is in the context of a suite of strategic planning that needs to be undertaken this year, which includes that revenue and rating plan. So in reviewing that revenue and rating plan, it really is the best time to consider our rating strategy for Dinner Plain. One of the other considerations in considering our rating strategy for Dinner Plain is the application of the Dinner Plain Reserve. So Dinner Plain operates on what is considered a cost recovery basis. If there's a deficit or surplus between the difference between all general and special rate income, which is attributed to Dinner Plain Village, and all general and special costs, which is attributable to Dinner Plain Village, then the sum of that is placed into the Dinner Plain Reserve or allocated to a reserve called the Dinner Plain Reserve, which is then used to fund specific services and projects within Dinner Plain. It is proposed that should we not raise a special rate from the 1st of July 2025, that the reserve would cease to be allocated income from that time, and income going forward would come into general revenue. The balance of the money in the reserve would be quarantined and funds would be expended specifically to support approved projects and services within Dinner Plain until the reserve is exhausted, and then it would be closed. In order for us to prepare for this work, we are currently undertaking work to understand the operation of the reserve and to ensure that everything has been correctly attributed from an income and an expense perspective so that we can have confidence in the final reserve balance. We will also then prepare a final report to come to council, should this be supported, to outline the balance of the reserve and how we would propose managing the reserve post 30 June 2025. if the financial implication of this for council is a reduction in revenue of approximately $167,000 a year for 2025-26. In 24-25, these funds were used to support and run the Dinner Plain bus service. This proposal assumes that we will continue to operate the Dinner Plain bus service for 2025-26. In terms of consultation, the consultation on this proposal will be undertaken through the consultation on the Revenue and Rating Plan 2025 when that is put out to the public. And we are when it's put out to the public, and that will be the mechanism by which we would receive feedback from the community on this plan. So in conclusion, it's proposed the council does not declare a special rate in Dinner Plain Village for the 2025-26 financial year, brings Dinner Plain into the commercial industrial differential strategy as applied to the rest of the Shire through the 2025 review of council's revenue and rating plan, which will result in an overall reduction in funds to council of $167,000 a year for 2025-26, and on finalisation of the 2024-25 special rate that the Dinner Plain Reserve would be held with no further income attributed and the remaining balance of the Dinner Plain Reserve expended over time to support projects and services specific to Dinner Plain.
Thank you, Ms Cook. That was a very long report, very, very thorough. Appreciate it. Councillors. Councillor Ronco. Seconder. Councillor Anderson. Thank you. Councillor Ronco.
Just a question. Do Dinner Plain ratepayer will see any money change to their upcoming rate?
So the impact on individual properties is harder to gauge because it does depend on the value of the property itself and whether it's had much movement within the year. But overall, the impact for commercial industrial properties within Dinner Plain should be that it's fairly stable. The increases on average would increase less than the 3% rate cap, but that doesn't necessarily apply to an individual property.
Thank you. Thank you.
Councillor Anderson.
Just note that special rate for Dinner Plain is fairly sort of uncommon sort of thing that happens within council. Like people are allowed to do these, but this doesn't happen very often. Are we able to reapply the special rate anytime in the future if there's a need to sort of bring it back up, and if there's a change in the way the village operates or the need necessitates?
Thank you, Councillor Anderson. So a special rate is a rating mechanism that can be used if there is a specific purpose to generate income that benefits a specific group of people. So not declaring a special rate does not preclude council from declaring a special rate in the future. However, council could choose to declare a special rate for different groups of our community depending on what the benefit should be. So in theory, should there be a particular development that benefited a particular group of ratepayers in the municipality, whether it be in Dinner Plain or somewhere else, and that was a very defined benefit for that particular group of ratepayers, a special rate can be declared to defray the expense of that particular expense. So yes, not declaring a special rate this year does not preclude council from declaring a special rate in the future should it meet the legislative requirements for that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Councillor Graham.
Thank you, Director Cook. Two things. Firstly, I think the people of Dinner Plain will be happy that they're being treated the same way as everyone else in the Shire, as every other ratepayer, and also that they'll be probably happy that the Dinner Plain Reserve is being quarantined for their use and not absorbed into the council funds.
Thank you, Councillor Graham. Any further comments from any other councillors? Councillor Ronco? No? Take the one to the vote. All those in favour of the recommendation? There you go. Carried. Very thorough report, as I said. Item 9, informal meeting of councillors. For noting, we have 3 briefing sessions on our informal reports, informal meetings. Moved by Councillor Graham. Seconded by Councillor Byrne. Councillor Graham.
Thank you. I believe there might be one missing, the 18th of March. last week.
I think it's being added. There you go. On a bed, cut around. Yeah. Thanks. Thank you, Councillor Graham. Do you have anything else you'd like to comment, Councillor Byrne? No? March the 18th has been added. Thank you very much. All those in favour of the noting with the additional briefing session added? Beautiful. Thank you. That is unanimous. Presentation of reports by delegates. And I will start on my left with Councillor Tanzin. If he has anything, or people can just say whether they've got one. You probably don't have a note. Anyone this side got one? Yes. Councillor Ronco.
Yes, Alpine Resilience Partnership meeting on the Wednesday, 5th of March 2025. I was glad to assist to my first Alpine Resilience Partnership meeting with representatives from different groups such as Vic SES, CFA, Alpine Health, Norris Multicultural Association, and other one. This group, composed of Alpine stakeholder groups, is delivering essential work to Alpine Shire residents to be better prepared and resilient to natural disasters such as bushfire, flooding, and landslide. During this meeting, we talk about the IRP engagement with Alpine Shire community and community group. How could the IRP attract more awareness, including best suitable meeting place and time for the community, and delivering a clear vision of this future meeting. The Alpine Shire Council Emergency Management Coordinator presented to us 2 new videos helping in understanding the 72 hours program and start the resilience conversation in our community. The IRP also would like to secure some funding, government and public, to pursue their great work and upcoming future projects, leading our Alpine Shire community to be more resilient to natural disaster, as 2020 Bushfire Recovery Fund is ending. Here were the main topics raised during this meeting, and I'm looking forward to our next meeting in May 2025 and to work with everyone helping our community to be more resilient.
Thank you, Councillor Ronco. Councillor Anderson? No. Councillor Byrne? Nothing. Councillor Graham?
Thank you, Mrs Mayor. 20th of February this year, we had an online meeting, the Goulburn Murray Climate Alliance. The meeting was quite procedural, so there's not a lot of meat to actually talk about. Councillor Tim Berrinall from Mansfield was elected as the chairperson for the group, and I was elected as deputy chair. A lot of the meeting was to do with the auspicing of the group through the Murrumbidgee Shire, who basically supply the office, the wage, the work care for the one person that the group employs. To fund that, each of the members of the alliance are then charged an annual fee. Other than that, wasn't a lot to talk about. Meetings and advocacy with VicGrid, the Energy Charter, and the Energy Accord, AusNet, Goulburn Murray Solar Savers, which is still not quite up and running, but soon will be. And the next meeting is in May. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Graham.
And if I may.
Yep, absolutely.
Meeting from the Waste and Recycling Forum held last week on the 17th of March in Wangaratta. Includes Alpine, Bendigo, Indigo, Mansfield, Towong, Wangaratta, Wodonga and the Alpine Resorts. It's aimed to standardising household recycling across Victoria. One of the things that's coming up that people may or may not be aware of is the recycling of glass being foisted on us by the state government by means of a purple bin. The time frame is not yet specified. It is hoped that it's funding going to be from the government to assist in the rollout, but it will be up to each council to decide on bin size, frequency of collection, etc. The soft plastics recycling, Alpine is one of 4 councils involved in the trial. Approximately 1,100 Alpine houses have signed up, but it is not known how many are actually partaking. There was talk of a textile recycling, but to date there's no common collection of textiles, although it's noted that there is a textile recycling operating out of the Harp Waste Depot in Lavington. There was some concern about holiday waste from bins being left out by absentee landlords who have B&Bs. You know, the people come in, they use the place, they put the bin out, and then a week later the bin is still on the side of the road. Wangaratta has trialled reducing the number of public waste bins, but they've had no net increase in littering. And they've also experimented with reducing the size of the bin openings to prevent household rubbish being put in. And our tip shop's now operational in Myrtleford. It's early days yet, but it's hoped to prevent 70 to 80 cubic metres of landfill annually, which probably doesn't sound a lot, but every bit helps. Next meeting's in May, and it's going to be held at the Wangaratta landfill site to inspect their green waste composting facility. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Councillor Graham, for those 2 reports. The next item is a general business, and I'm going to start with Councillor Graham. Just nothing. Councillor Graham? Councillor Anderson?
Yeah, just quickly. Over the next coming weeks, there is a possibility that FFMV might start burning. So if you do see smoke in the air or anything like that,
Check the website to see if it's
it'll all be on
linked
Big
to.
Emergency
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah. Thank you. I have some general business. Well, first of all, I'd like to sort of in congratulations and thank yous, but there's been school councils have just changed over for the year. They're generally a 2-year appointment as far as I understand, and I just wanted to thank all the people who put their hands up this year, all the people who've been on school council. I know my children have benefited from community members putting their hands up and being part of it and contributing, and I think it's a really important thing that parents can do to support their children and others at school. And also with the federal election coming up, I did know that during the local government election there were quite a few people who weren't getting the voting papers where they expected them to go to. So I just thought people should check their enrolments, and particularly younger people, make sure they are enrolled before the cut-off date, whenever that is. I forgot to look it up, so that they can make their voice heard as best they can in the next election. So they're my 2 general businesses. Oh, and I was going to say something about the tip shop too, but that's a fabulous initiative that has gone forward for the Alpine Shire. Tip shop at Myrtleford. And that's enough for me, and I'm going to hand over to Mr Jeremy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I only have one item this evening. I'd like to mention a significant event happening in Toowoomba on Friday, which is a celebration 180 years of Toowoomba. And at the same event, we're celebrating the opening of the Toowoomba Hall, so that's had a significant upgrade through some generous government funding. So get yourself down there and go and enjoy an evening with the Toowoomba and District Association, Community Association.
Thank you. Laura Wills. Yes, that sounds like it could be a very good party. The next item is motions for which notice has previously been given, and there are none. Reception and reading of petitions, there are none. Item 14, documents for sealing, there is one, and that's the recommendation that the Alpine Shire Audit and Risk Committee Charter be signed and sealed, and as it was passed, it was voted for tonight, that will be signed and sealed. Item 15, confidential reports. There are none. Item 16, closure of meeting at 6:05
Excuse me,
p.m.
Madam Mayor, I know you're on a roll there, but just back to item 14, if we could just follow
Oh, sorry.
the process of motions and seconding. Thank you.
Oh, didn't we do a motion in a second? Oops, thank you for pulling me up on that one. Could we please have a motion on the recommendation? Thank you, Councillor Byrne and Councillor Anderson. Phew, I was on a roll, wasn't I? Anything to add or to say? No? All those in favour of the recommendation? That one is passed. Thank you very much. All right, yeah, that's right. Councillor Anderson just said well spotted. So now we will skip right through back to item 16, closure of meeting at 16:06, and we are now